thank you all for coming. It's wonderful to see you here. So we're going to be playing North Indian classical music, which if you haven't heard before, now you're about to. And we're going to start with Raga Desh, which is a rainy season rag, which it's been kind of like that recently, so seemed appropriate. Let's see. Desh is kind of a sweet. It's like it's rainy season, but it's not like a thunderstorm. You know, it's like a gentle, cooling kind of rain on a hot day. You know, it's that kind of thing. And you know, devotional, very sweet rag. And if you have questions, we'll take those later. But first, we're just going to play. And let's see. Rhythmically, we're going to go through a couple of different. We're going to start off with. I'll start with an alap, which is sort of out of time, and then when Jerry comes in, we'll be in Japtal, which is a cycle of 10 beats divided 2-3-2-3, and then we'll move into Sitarkani, which is a 16-beat cycle, kind of funky 16-beat cycle, and then speed up into Tintal, which is also 16 beats, but not as funky.
Seems good.
So enjoy.
So sing along. te te ga ta ga di gi na da te te ga ta ga di gi na da te te ga ta ga di gi na da te te ga ta ga di gi na da te te ga ta ga di gi na da te te ga ta ga di gi na da te te ga ta ga di gi na da te te ga ta ga di gi na da te te ga ta ga di gi na da te te ga ta ga di gi na da te te ga ta ga di gi na da te te ga ta ga di gi na da te te ga ta ga di gi na da te te ga ta ga di gi na da te te ga ta ga di gi na da.
How about Jerry Leake, huh?
Oh,
We'll let our tempura player get some coffee. And so, not Rod coffee.
inside joke.
Yeah, bad. So, anybody have any questions or want to know anything about this? If not, we can just talk a little bit about the music. I think some of you would probably like to hear that. But is anything anybody wants to know? Could you bring up the house lights a little bit? Yeah, go ahead.
So what was the format for, like, I sensed lots of motifs throughout, and, like, it seems like the song went through several stages, so
Right.
what was, like, the
Yeah, what was the plan, the architecture? Yeah, that's a little bit of a long answer.
Next question.
Let's see. So the there was that out of time thing that starts with sort of starting at one note, which is do in Berklee speak, or sa in Indian speak, and then you move out from there, both down and up, and in range, sort of explore the range of the piano or the instrument, and then the rag is it's a little tricky to define a rag because it's kind of a deep subject, but I'm going to do my best, and then we'll see what happens. So rag it's sort of a scale. So this Raga Desh, it's the scale is sort of Ti Do. It's Ti Do, Re, Fa, Sol, Ti Do on the way up. So it's a pentatonic rag. Ti Do, Re, Fa, Sol, Ti Do. And then on the way down, it's Te, La, Sol, La, Fa, Mi, Re, Mi, Do. So it's got a little bit more of it's a little twisty on the way down. You can't just go straight down. You can't just go. That wouldn't be like. I mean, you can when it's going really fast. You can break some of the rules, but the basic thing is Do, Te, La, Sol, La, Fa, Mi, Re, Mi, Do. Re, Sa, Ni, Da, Pa, Ma. Ma, Pa, Da, Ma, Ga, Re, Ma, Ga, Sa. Something like that. And then there's a little bit of freedom within that, but that basic thing that it's sort of mixolydian on the way down with a few twists and turns. So that's the basic sort of setup of the melodic, and so the melodic material comes from the way the rag is set up, and then there are little compositions that I was playing, and then little themes that I was coming back to in the various different rhythmic cycles. So, and do you want to talk about the rhythmic cycles a little bit?
Yeah, we opened with that Japtal, which is in 10, and basically my role is to play the accompaniment, play the teka structure, which is the specific arrangement of the sounds of the tabla using the bowls or the language that really defines the cycle. So in the beginning, and this is unornamented, this is just a clean version of that, with the syllables being din, na, din, na, tin, na, din, na, din. And when I clap, those are marking the divisions or groupings where the bass drum is open. The wave, called Kali, is where the bass drum drops out. So much of the form of the tabla compositions and the accompaniment is built around sort of the stress points with the bass drum and then those absence points. And it's very reflective of all the rhythm cycles. So the teka, without any ornamentation, because it's kind of, the role is to really ornament, but here's the basic phrase. Drummer wouldn't just go ding, spang, a lang all day long. The idea, and in the old days, the tabla player probably would. But now, over the last 100 years, the tabla's become a very much of a featured solo instrument. And so there's a lot of ornamentation that really makes it interactive in a partnership with the featured artist. Now, the goal, though, is not to overdo the ornaments, not to play too much that it sounds like I'm soloing. So there's a careful balance between the ornamentation and also grabbing certain phrases spontaneously. None of this is worked out. It's kind of like jazz in that sense, but also making it clear and precise. So I would probably ornament a little like this. Din, na, chicka din, kada din, din, na, din, na, chicka din, din, na, din, na, ti, din, kada din, din, na, ti, din, na, chicka din, doggy did get the din, na. So if you can't say it, you can't play it, and vice versa. This is all language, and there's a deep, vast poetry that's involved in the fixed compositions that I played. When you heard me having my sort of moment, I was playing actual learned compositions, and some of them can go for several minutes, theme and variation. So it really gets into the world of composition and representing that, in addition to the accompaniment. And you heard me at one point reciting what are called ti-hi, or these rhythm cadences. So if first rock drum fill, a fill that a rock drummer is going to learn is a ti-hi. We've all done it, right? So, takadimi ta, takadimi ta, takadimi. So these ti-his, these rhythm cadences, which we use to end, and we ended the performance in that, can really be monstrously big. Some of them can go over a minute and a half and longer, spanning really complex phrases and phraseology. So we thought it'd be fun to kind of give you a sense of the language and these cadences. I spoke them first and then I played them, so you probably grasped that a little bit along the way. But, we're always students in this music. This is much bigger than I could even begin to say. I'm having fun now because my hair's gray, and if I can't play it by now, I'm in trouble. So that's sort of a little outline of my role as accompanist. John decides everything from the time of the rag, which is based on time of day issues. Also the tal, the speed that he wants to play in, the rhythm cycle. A classical rag can be played in many, many different rhythm cycles, and that's what makes it really fresh and alive. You can have hundreds of versions of Raga Desh in your collection, and they can all be diversely different, from instrumentalists to vocalists. Whereas, of course, you can have many, many versions of all the things you are nowadays. That's it. But really, how many versions of Beethoven's Ninth do you have? So it's kind of gets into this realm of having just a vast collection of all these different interpretations of one rag based on one player and the accompanist too. So it's a big tradition. And I just finished teaching a lab downstairs. I have tabla students now for the first time sitting down and learning these instruments. And so grateful to Berklee for actually opening that door, because when you get sucked in, man, you're there for a while. There's no doubt about it. And actually, before this, I was African drumming for 2 hours. So I'm surprised I can even get my fingers to move. It's a completely different world.
For sure.
But anyway, other thoughts, questions, hands up?
Yeah.
What was that sound in the background that you had?
It's called the tempura. So the actual instrument is it's got a gourd at the bottom, and then it's got this long thing, and it's got 4 strings. Where you're going? Those are the 4 strings. So it's just a drone instrument, and it kind of goes back to the days when it was mostly a vocal kind of music, and it's to help the singer stay in tune and stay oriented. It's partly that. That's the musical function of it. But it also, the sound of it, it's constant, and it has this sort of, I don't know how to describe that, but so it represents the Om vibration, which is the vibration of all the universe. Sort of, you can think of it as like, how the molecules are constantly, or atoms are constantly in motion, even though, it doesn't look like the stage is in motion, but it's crazily in motion if you look at the smallest level. And so it's sort of a representation of the cosmic, version of that, of like the Om that is constantly vibrating throughout the universe. That's in Indian philosophy, that's what it relates to. So yeah. But this is the electronic version. Her name is Siri. Thanks, Siri. So anything else, or maybe we'll play some more, huh? Okay.
Over here.
Oh, yeah, it's hard to see, so just shout it out.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you, how much time did you learn this in India, or did you learn over here?
Yeah, good, thank you.
I guess, well, why don't you answer first?
I go back 40 years when I was a student here at Berklee, a jazz vibraphone major, actually, believe it or not, and I still play like crazy at home mostly. But I discovered the band Shakti. Just somebody put on this handful of beauty recording, and I could not believe what my ears were hearing. I could not believe, because I'm big into the fusion thing, but I had no idea what the instruments were, and I didn't even know what they looked like. There was no internet back then. So I sought out the drums tabla. I got a refund from my government check one year and started hitting them like bongos. And the next thing I know, I'm working my way into traditional classical learning, which means you have to learn in the classical style. And my teachers are the great Rajiv Devastali in Pune, India. I studied with him and his father, Mr. Sriram Devastali. And prior to that, an American who had studied in India named Todd Nardin. And I do go on these sojourns to continue my studies, and I've written a book on tabla as well to kind of further my research. And then I've been delving a lot into South Indian Carnatic music in some of my classes, a lot of rhythm theory, a lot of mathematics. Tabla is really so much about composition and learning the compositions, where on the Carnatic side, you're really working with mathematical cells in the drumming side that allow you to string them together and create all kinds of possibilities, which makes that particular system very versatile to musicians of all instruments. But, Coltrane was a big fan of Indian music, and of course, we all are, because it has a relationship to jazz in a sense that you're learning the structure, but then also how to improvise on and around it, really feeling that sense of it's a classical tradition, but it's always evolving and growing with the artist. So I pay homage to my teachers, and they're telling me to go home and practice some more all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm listening.
Definitely. And my story is a little different, but the first live Indian classical music I ever heard was Jerry, believe it or not, when I was a student at New England Conservatory like a long time ago, and I took a class in Indian classical music, and Jerry and our friend Phil Scarf came in and did a little sort of lecture demo thing. And so that was really cool. And then I was lucky enough to go to India very soon after that and attend a concert series of 4 concerts. It was 4 nights in a row of 6-hour concerts. And I don't know if you've ever been to a 6-hour concert, but I sure never had. And it was the most amazing thing, because at the end of 6 hours of music, you were like more energized than you were when you got there, a lot more. And and you were like, it's midnight, and you're like, wow, I could do this all night, and a lot of times they do, because the music is just so uplifting. So so I was hooked from there on. And then but I didn't get, I played on and off, I've written some things, but I didn't get deep into it. I started to play with Jerry's group. He's got a group called Nataraj, that's a fusion. It's Indian classical music and jazz and West African rhythms all sort of put into one band. It's a really cool band. So I play bass with them sometimes. And then more recently, I started studying in a serious way with George Ruckert, who is he was the right-hand man of Ali Akbar Khan at the Ali Akbar Khan School for about 25 years. And so he studied with Ali Akbar Khan for a long, long time, and was really just a very close friend, and has just tremendous amounts of music that he learned from Ali Akbar Khan. So he's been just showing me that. And of course the way of learning is totally vocal, so he sings a song to me and I sing it back, and like that. And the notation is like, you wouldn't even recognize it as music notation at all. You probably can't see this very well, but it's a whole bunch of letters with some slashes and dashes, and so there's a whole, the letters represent the solfege syllables, and then there's a rhythmic system. It's not super weird once you get inside it, but it's it was definitely a little bit of a different world. But anyway, so I just love the music, and I feel very lucky to be getting to perform it. And like Jerry said, I'm really just getting started, and looking forward to the next 50 years. Hopefully by 103, I'll be like getting pretty good.
I know the feeling.
So should we go on?
Yeah. Should I describe the rupak?
Yeah.
Okay. So the next rhythm cycle that we're going to play in is a cycle of 7 beats, and it's unique in that it does not begin with the bass drum being open. So if you don't really know, it can throw you off as to where is sum, where is the downbeat, where is 1 of the cycle. So it's a tal devised for the tabla, because prior to the tabla there was a drum called the pakawaj or pakwaj, and that goes back thousands of years. The tabla is only about 300 years old, and don't want to get into a history lesson, but needless to say, this particular rhythm cycle begins with the dry strokes, the syllables being tin, tin, na. It's divided 3, 2, 2. So tin, tin, na, din, na, din, na. So that is the one right there, din, na. And on the drums we have din, din, na, di, di, na, na, din, din, na, na, din, din, na, di, di, na, di, din, din, na. Very lovely, take a very lovely rhythm structure, kind of part of the odd structure. I forget the terminology they used to describe them. The crooked tals, actually, that's what they is. Not morally crooked, but but they have these really unusual shapes and geometries, and I love them to death. I always want to play in more of those. The other ones groove nicely, but these have this interesting geometry that's just kind of magical. So.
And then the rag we're going to be playing is Puriya Dhanashri, which is also an evening rag. Of course, everything we're doing tonight is an evening rag, because there's a story about Tansen, who's a legendary musician, one of the great innovators of modern Indian classical music, but the legend goes that the Ali Akbar, or Akbar the Great, he was the court composer for Akbar the Great, and Akbar the Great commanded him to play an evening raga at noon, and he didn't want to, but okay, if you insist, and then it immediately became night once he started playing, because he had such a powerful command of the rag. So I don't want that to happen. So we're going to stick to evening rags. But so Puriya Dhanashri, it's quite a bit different. Goes flat 2, major 3rd, sharp 4th, 5th, flat 6, major 7, like that. Don't even ask me what the name of that mode is, because I don't know.